And welcome back to the Daily Dribble podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammit, here back with another huge episode as we rapidly approach postseason basketball. Now, at this stage of the season, roughly give or take around 20 games to go for most teams across the league, we're now getting a pretty clear picture as to which teams are genuine contenders or pretenders. Today kicks off the first part of a two-part series going through and kind of ranking all the teams that I believe are still somewhat in contention to win an NBA title and kind of grading them as contenders or pretenders. It will make sense momentarily. I'll explain it a little bit better in a second. Before we get into that, though, just want to give a big shout out to Stadium Scene and The Cover. Both those networks continuing to showcase all of my work here at the Daily Dribble, as well as a whole host of other content creators in and around Australia, New Zealand, the US, and Canada. Their hard work and support is monumental in keeping the show going. Very, very thankful for them being a part of the journey, as I'm for all you guys tuning in and week out, whether you're watching this one on YouTube, listening via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or just staying up to date with any of the social media channels, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all of them. Very, very appreciative for all your continued support. Wow, how's that? Let's get into some actual basketball talk now. As I said, Contenders or Pretenders, a two-part series. Today, as I often do, I'm going to tackle the Eastern Conference. I'll be going through and giving teams either Pretenders or Contenders title that are still in the hunt to win it. Now, teams that don't have a chance of making the play-in, I'm a legitimate chance, that is, I'm not including within this. Some of these might be pretty obvious, others maybe not so much. Next week, I'll be tackling the West, which will be considerably harder. Probably a lot more teams with a realistic chance of potentially winning the title. But we'll save that for next week. We'll get into the Eastern Conference, and we'll start firstly with the Brooklyn Nets. Now, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, they are a pretender. I actually think they've been fun this year. D'Angelo Russell back. Cam Johnson playing some pretty good ball. Cam Thomas just coming back now. Would have been really fun. I'm quite excited to see what this squad can do when healthy, when fit, when a little more stable. Possibly a few more of these younger pieces, another year older. They're nowhere near good enough to be a genuine threat. But should they sneak into the play, and they're going to be a fun watch. Spoke about a couple of years ago, they had a team very similar to this with D'Lo, Spencer Dinwiddie, players like that kind of holding down the fort there in Brooklyn, and they were just a real dogged team. Now, at the moment on the season, they're 22-43. They're 5 games back of the Bulls for that final play-in spot, so it's not that feasible that they make the play-in. There's still a possibility there, but they are a pretender for me. Moving on to the Toronto Raptors. They likewise are a pretender. Now, they've got a fun young core that's developing there. There's still probably a few pieces away, especially in the depth department. But with Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Grady Dick, Jakob Poeltl, there's potential in their ranks. Now, again, likewise to Brooklyn, they sit at 22-43 on the season, 5 games back of the Bulls there in 10th. Again, a team that's probably not likely to make the play-in. But I tell you what, if they had this core healthy throughout the duration of the season, I think they'd be considerably better off than what they are now. As I said, Barnes, Quickley, Barrett, Grady Dick as well, really taking strides in his game. Jakob Poeltl, there's enough talent there on both ends of the floor. Will it get there this season? Probably not. But with them all healthy, hopefully going into next year, they should be at least eyeing the play-in, if not maybe pushing towards a playoff spot. A couple more moves around the edges. Brandon Ingram as well, who I forgot to mention. Forget that he's there. But if he's also up and moving and playing good ball, they should be right there hovering on it as a playoff team. But for this year, Toronto are a pretender. Moving on to my next team, the Philadelphia 76ers, at the moment sitting 11th at 22-42, 4.5 games back of the Bulls there. They are a pretender. Now, this was a season that held so much hope for them. It's a big off-season move of acquiring Paul George. They made some other moves around the edges as well. Gershon Yabusele, Cole Lowry coming back into the fold as well. They had some real good depth. Andre Drummond. They are unlikely to make the play-in. 4.5 games back of the Bulls at the moment. They've got a minus 4.9 point differential on the season. Really lacked on both ends of the floor. With Embiid now being shut down for the season, Paul George with his injury woes as well. Like, you've just got to completely, I think, blow this up. It is time to unequivocally build around Tyrese Maxey. He's the new franchise star. Embiid is a liability. As I said a couple of weeks ago, I think it's time, if you can look to move on from him, you do so. Unlikely that anyone will take him on given the injury woes at the moment. But this has just been a complete catastrophe. As I said, this season, they went in as legitimate championship contenders. That big three of Maxey, Embiid, and George, we spoke about it. You've got the MVP level big man in Embiid. You've got the phenomenal two-way wing player there in Paul George, who can light it up on both ends of the floor. And then the explosive up-and-coming guard and Tyrese Maxey. Like, that big three looked poised for huge things. Unfortunately, it hasn't eventuated. And as I said, now they're on the outside looking in to just make the play-in. So really, really disappointing if you're a Philly fan. Yeah, they are a pretender well and truly. Moving on to my next team, the Chicago Bulls. Now, I've given them as a pretender. They sit 10th at the moment with a 27-38 record. This team, though, has been on the up. They've won their past 3 games. They're looking considerably better since moving on from Zach LaVine. I was very, very, very tempted to go Contender as a real, squint your eyes dark horse. As I said, I've loved the way they've looked after offloading Zach LaVine. Josh Giddey is arguably having one of, if not the best stretch of his career. I think Nikola Vucevic is one of the best big men currently in the league, just coming back from injury himself there. You look at it, the eye test, they're not good enough. They are not good enough. But with Giddey, Vooch, Kevin Huerter, Kobe White, Pat Williams, there's a little bit to like about this team. Zach Collins, who's been the backup big man, he's been playing in that starting position whilst Vooch has been out. He's been playing for some phenomenal ball as well. As I said, they're a team that I don't think are going to... Yeah, they're not going to contend, but are they? No. They're too young. No, they're not good enough. No, I've changed my mind. As I said, I was going to squint the eyes and maybe look at them as my first contender. They are a pretender, but I've been very excited by what they've done over the last week or two. Very, very excited as a fellow Aussie to see Josh Giddey on this tear at the moment. And should they make the play-in, which they're 4.5 games back up of the chasing pack at the moment, they could cause a few headaches. But they nevertheless are a pretender. The Miami Heat are likewise a pretender, which is much of the theme for a lot of these lower base teams. The Heat currently sit 9th at the moment, 29-35 on the season. On a 4-game losing streak, they are a pretender. They just don't have enough firepower, I don't think, to get them into that contending kind of aspect. I think Hero, Wiggins, Bam, that kind of being the crux of your core. That's fun. I don't think it's enough, though, in the East. That's considerably better than it has been the last few years. I think with some of the younger players that they've got at their disposal, they're probably another year away from just pushing themselves into contention. They need a little more stability. They probably need another piece or two, like a guard that's scoring more proficiently. Terry Rozier's not quite it. Davion Mitchell isn't quite bringing enough from a scoring perspective. If he can get that upticking a little bit, again, you can kind of squint your eyes and see a world in which they cause some headaches, but they're not good enough to be a championship contender. Moving on to the Orlando Magic. Now, they sit 8th at the moment at 30-36, 3-7 in their last 10. Now, for big parts of this season, or probably the first third, you would say that they were looking like a genuine contender. I don't think that's the case anymore. They are a pretender for me. For as good as their defense is, they still have the best defense in the league. Their offense is still holding them back. Contavious Caldwell-Pope is probably one of the more disappointing players this season. He's often having games where he's scoring between 0 to 5 points, which is just not enough for a guy of his talent and capability. I think he's a big swing piece for them if they want to be considered contenders. They need a lot more out of him. But I like Banchero. I like Wagner, Suggs. It's quite a tidy roster. Still young, but I don't think they can mount a genuine title push this season, especially not from within a play-in spot, which they currently are at the moment. Going up to our final play-in base team at the moment, the Atlanta Hawks. They are a pretender. Now, they currently sit 5.5 games back of the Detroit Pistons for that final playoff guaranteed spot. The Hawks 31-34 on the season, riding the 3-game win streak. They're not far away. Again, another team that's not that far away. With a healthy Jalen Johnson, I probably could have made a stronger case for them. I still think Trae Young is probably one of the most underrated, underappreciated players in the league. Leading the league in assists at the moment, doing it on reasonable efficiency as well. He does not get the respect he deserves. But again, another team that I still think is a move or two away. They've got Capella playing off the bench now. I don't think Okongwu is good enough to match it with some of the competent bigs in the Eastern Conference. You look at Porzingis, you look at Vooch even for the Chicago Bulls. Milwaukee have Lopez, the Knicks with Cat there. The Cavs with Jared Allen. I just don't see a world in which their big men stocks can hold up. But nevertheless, I see them as a pretender. They're not too far away. They're going to be a super fun team to watch should they make the playoffs. I would love to see another Atlanta Knicks matchup, seeing Trae Young back in Madison Square Garden. But we'll see how that one plays out. The first team that I've been given contender status to is the Detroit Pistons. Now, I'm a big believer in them. They currently sit 6th at 37-29. They are they're on equal footing for 4th as well. So it's themselves, the Pacers, and Bucks, all 18.5 games back of the Cavs at the moment. So they're in good shape at the moment. But I'm a big believer in this team. I've said it the last couple of weeks. I think they've got a really nice balanced squad. But with Cade Cunningham, he's a genuine superstar. With him leading them, I think they're a chance. They're probably still a move away from being a genuine threat. But I'm still classifying them as a contender. With Duran, Hardaway, Tobias Harris, Cade Cunningham, then coming off the bench, you've got Beasley, Schroeder, Fontecchio, who can make shots as well. There's enough to like about them. They're probably a good 8 players deep. And that's all you really need in the playoffs. So I'm very high on this team, excited to see how they go over the next couple of weeks. And if they can shore up home court, that would certainly instill a little bit more faith in me. But Detroit are a contender. The Indiana Pacers, they receive a pretender mark from myself. I've lost a little bit of faith in them lately. I think Halliburton is fantastic when he's fit and firing, but there is still those injury clouds that hang over him. Likewise, that big three there of Halliburton, Siakam, Turner, I think it's solid without being elite. And at the moment, I just don't think it's good enough to contend in the East. They're a team that's been hanging on the periphery the last couple of seasons. They haven't taken quite that leap into a title contending team. But they're in and around the mix. Yet I'm seeing them as a pretender for this season. The Milwaukee Bucks. I've given as a pretender. Now, a lot of people might be shaking their heads at this. You still have two of the best players. Let's try that again. The Bucks are a pretender. Now, you still have two of the best players on the planet in your ranks there in Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard. That still makes you a team to be feared. Yet their depth worries me. In their ranks, there's players who are inconsistent, who are injury prone. I worry that Kevin Porter Jr., Kyle Kuzma, they're two of the more inefficient players within the league. You've lost a stabilizing guy there in Middleton. You're really placing a lot of trust in Giannis and Dame to carry this team. I don't know if those players like Brook, Torian Prince, as I said, Kyle Kuzma, if they're going to be able to give enough to support these two superstars. For that reason, I can't judge Milwaukee as a contender. They've got to be a pretender in my eyes. I think that'll get quite a lot of backlash. I really toed and froed with this one for quite a while, but I did settle on pretender. Another team that I think I could get a little bit of backlash for this. I've said that the Knicks this season are a pretender as well. Now, many people would have them as a genuine title contender, but I just think I worry about their starting five. Now, their starting five is elite, but I worry about what's coming in behind them in terms of depth. And given the amount of minutes that they're logging across the regular season, injuries and fatigue is certainly going to come into play once we reach postseason basketball. Now, there's a lot of guys, as a Cat, Mikal Bridges, OJ Anunoby, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart. These guys are putting up huge minutes, often 40-plus minutes a night in and night out. Eventually, that's going to take a toll. And again, it's kind of looking into a crystal ball. I do think it's going to catch up with them in the postseason. Therefore, I think they're a pretender. I don't think they've got the necessary pieces from a depth perspective to come and kind of fill those gaps and take a little bit of the strain off. So I hate to say it, but I think the Knicks are a pretender. Really looking forward to seeing them getting Madison Square Garden rocking once again in the postseason. But I do think some of these star players are going to break down in due course. The Boston Celtics are a contender for me. Now, the reigning champs, they are all business, looking in really cruise control at the moment. They have to be my pick in the East at the moment. I think they're by far head and shoulders the best team in that conference. I wouldn't go as far to say the league just yet, but I do think they are pretty comfortably the best team in the East. They deserve to be a contender, and who knows, they could well be going back-to-back this season. Moving ahead to my final team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, I have as a contender as well, have been the benchmark across the regular season thus far. Incredibly well-rounded on both ends of the floor. They came out all guns a-blazing, and they've just continued to run with it. They sit 55-10 on the season, currently riding a 15-game win streak. They have an 11.3 point differential. As I said, head and shoulders the best team playing across the regular season thus far. Whether it translates into postseason success, time will tell. But I think heading into the postseason, they've got to be adjudged as a contender. Guys, there you have it. I've rattled through the teams that I think are pretenders or contenders for the NBA championship for the Eastern Conference. As I said, next week I will be tackling the West, which is sure to throw up a few curly ones, but really, really looking forward to getting into that as well. Now, as I said, is where things currently stand. We're looking at about 20 games for most teams to go in the regular season, quickly dwindling down. But with that becomes the most exciting part of the NBA season, postseason basketball. I'm chomping at the bit to get into it, and I hope you guys are as well. Till next week, though, I will leave it at that. Hope you all have a fantastic week. Enjoy everything that the NBA has to offer on and off the court. I can't wait to share with you all my contenders and pretenders for the Western Conference next week. Till then, though, guys, have a fantastic week. And remember, be good at it. I'll speak to you soon.